Welcome to the RSAC Conference 2025. We're here live in the Cyber Risk TV studio and from Broadcast Alley at Moscone West. There's a lot of Moscones, so you have to kind of try to keep up with them and try to make sense of all this stuff. I'm Doug White, and joining me for this interview is Jordan Abnam, the CISO of Entrust.
Thank you, Doug. Great to be here. Happy to talk to you about post-quantum cryptography and how AI is changing our cybersecurity world.
Yeah, I'm like 100% on board with. I was reading like the things you had put down, and I'm 100% on board with post-quantum, computing. I'm completely on board and happy that NIST started having people put together potential algorithms 15 years ago, because part of that was, wow, somebody's doing something the right way for a change, not after it happened, not after a big disaster. So I'm really solid with this being a big priority for organizations, which I think, and so you just came up with a cryptographic security platform.
Yep.
And can you maybe tell me a little bit about what that is and why that's important?
Absolutely. So our cryptographic security platform is a one-stop shop for enterprises to control their cryptographic keys, their certificates, and their secrets across both hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, and on-prem environments.
So this is going to be one of the big problems, right? As you move into this the quantum age. But as you start moving that direction, which Jeff and I were talking about this morning about how I used to say, well, it's probably 3 to 5 years. But then I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, yeah, but you don't forget we could sell you quantum computing out of the cloud. And I'm like, oh, wait. So I'm going to revise that.
Let's talk about that.
So, I would ask you that question, what do you think that time frame is?
So I separate it between large nation states who have abundance of resources and perhaps the availability of quantum computing to the rest of us. And for nation states, I foresee that's going to be in about the 5 year mark. I think it's going to come pretty quickly. For the larger masses, it's probably going to be in the 10-year mark. However, we know that threat actors are doing what's called harvest now and decrypt later.
Oh, yeah.
So the call to action is now for enterprises to put together how they want to solve for this and the solutions they need to protect their data today.
Well, I'm always telling people that they need a data flow diagram for cryptography. Not just we have a database or we have a bunch of files, but now we need to know where our crypto tokens, all the things we use crypto for, where are those things located and how do we manage it? Which sounds like that's sort of where you're going, is to get that data flow diagram that a lot of people have never thought about before. Really. Just when I go to them and say, do you know where your data is? They're like, there's some over there, I think. Now we're going to them and saying, do you know where your tokens are?
Yeah.
And they're going, I've had people go,
what's that?
When you say tokens, and you're like, this is going to be bad.
So let's talk quickly about how enterprises can prepare for quantum computing and specifically the transition to post-quantum cryptography. The first step in this process is what I call the pre-planning stage. And that is where we as security leadership need to gain the attention of our fellow executives and start talking about why this is an issue, the risks it poses to our organization, and start aligning resources, budgets, and strategies to get it done. Then, like you said, we need to take an inventory. We need to understand where within our enterprise our cryptographic assets exist. And then after the third step was we need to start prioritizing. We know not all of our cryptographic assets and our data is created equally. We want to prioritize the data that has the longest shelf life because of that harvest now decrypt later, right? We want to protect that for the long term. And then after we know how we're prioritizing the data, we've set that in place, we want to create a roadmap. We want to look at where we're going from start to finish, the checkpoints, the journeys, the outcomes. And then most importantly, last but not least, we want to test our PQC, our post-quantum cryptography, before we start using it. How many times have we seen folks try something new, try it in production first, and oops, it breaks it, right? We want to make sure we're testing that first.
Well, I'll get along. For years, so I was going to ask you, so do you think, and you can say no, because I don't know how, I really don't know how I feel about this. Do you think that leading into some of that, I agree with you on everything you said, maybe some tabletops or
Yes.
even live fire exercises, because when I was doing disaster stuff, if you go to people, if I come to you and I say, do you have backups? You go, yes, we do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Always is yes.
Are they good? Yes.
No.
Are they encrypted? Yes. Are they safe from all harm? Yes. And they want you to then walk away. And then when you go, let's go get some. Pick a server, any server. We're gonna restore. And they're like, wait, no, we don't do that. So do you think maybe a live fire with this would help?
Absolutely. Control validation is key here. What you're referring to is the control validation process.
Absolutely.
That's how we know our controls are working.
Yep.
And it's not just for PQC, it's all the other controls in our environment, the identity verification controls, every control in our environment, we should be testing on a continual basis based upon risk, based upon our environment tolerance, and based upon our programs.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I just think if you're out there and you're thinking about this, and you should be thinking about this.
Absolutely.
You probably do need to be starting with this conversation, and then maybe a tabletop to get an idea, and then maybe a live fire to say, okay, we need to find all these things, and which ones are we not finding, and what do we not know about, and on and on and on.
Absolutely right.
So another thing that you had mentioned was about this involving deep fakes and all this, because this is another part of disaster planning that we used to do, which is this social engineering component, and we were just testing them in a very limited way. But now it's become much more complicated, because I always thought this, though. I will tell you, I'm going to tell you, I thought this for a long time.
You were ahead of the time.
Well, I was thinking, like, what if somebody could? And I wasn't thinking this far ahead. I was like, what if somebody could pretend to be somebody else? And I've done that. I mean, I did a pen test once where I went in the front lobby, talked to the security guard. I said, my uncle is Mr. and the names are on the. I was like, my uncle is Mr. Wallace, the CEO, and he's out in the limo. He's really mad. He wants me to get his briefcase. Cool. And the guy was like, you know where his office is, right? I'm like, yeah,
absolutely.
It's in suite 907. I'll be right back. And I went upstairs. The goal was just to steal a piece of stationery out of this guy's office. But I mean, I was thinking about that even then, and social engineering has revolved around that kind of sort of fakery all along. But now you start talking about deep fakes and synthetic personalities. I love that term. Yeah. I feel like one. I mean, so where is that going?
We know that deep fakes and synthetic identities, is what we're calling it, are on the rise. And Doug, this is a big problem thanks to generative AI. Generative AI is readily available for us on smartphones. You can download it on your mobile device. Ease, it's free. These products are available. You can go to a website.
Buy some time.
You don't even need to buy it. It's literally
you get it for free.
And these synthetic identities are causing a huge challenge for us. And so to combat that, what organizations need to do is adopt a multi-tiered, multi-layered approach to ensure that the identity of their customers is verified throughout the journey. So let's talk about the journey real quick. Okay. The beginning of the journey, the onboarding of the journey is really most important. That's where you want to detect these synthetic identities first, so you can prevent the deepfakes as well, so you can prevent that from continuing down the onboarding journey for the customer. Okay. Then once the customer is onboarded, we also know we want to continue to validate their identity with multi-factor multi-factor MFA, multi-factor authentication, as well as PKI, so we can validate the identity as well as the device identity they're coming from. And during this process, what that does is it starts to create an environment where we can, using artificial intelligence and AI identity verification solutions, we can start understanding when there's an imbalance in the risk, and we can start pop-up authentications during high-value transactions or high-risk transactions that the user needs to verify themselves again.
How does that change in quantum? I mean, as we shift from I've always, so pre-quantum.
Today.
Well, no, let's go back a little further than that.
10 years?
Pre even modern stuff. I walked into a facility, there was a guy standing there, and he looked at the color of my badge.
Sure.
And said, you have this color badge. That's one check mark. He then looked at my photograph and said, you seem to look like the person in this photograph. Yeah. And then they scanned the badge. I put my hand on the reader, and they said, I think this is sufficient, but we'll repeat it 2 or 3 times before you actually get to your office, because this is this. So that's one world. And that was pretty effective, but not at scale. Works fine when you got 12 people going through there every day. You got 12,000, it's going to be a bit of a problem, although they could probably do that too, because you just keep hiring more and more guards.
Exactly right.
And we moved into this what now, which is just sort of tokens and things like that, which I think there's a great range on that. Everything from like, oh yeah, this is just an unencrypted token that, some coder wrote, and it says if X equals 17, connect,
Sure.
to crypto tokens that we do have now.
Yep.
So even currently there's a lot of problems with this. So as we move into this future, where are the big problems going to be?
It's the speed and scale that these attacks are coming at us. So we know today, with our current set of AI tool set, these come at us relatively frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, with post-quantum computing, I'll say quantum computing, we know the threat actors are going to have that available to them, and they're going to be firing off these perfect phishing emails at us at speed and scale that are going to be alarming to us.
Right.
So our technologies, our AI-enabled security protocols need to advance along with that to meet or exceed that of the threat actors. And that's going to be the challenge for us. That is the challenge for us today.
No, I agree, because I think this all comes back to trust, right?
Absolutely.
Because I have been saying that for years as well, which I really wish we had a way that we could know who was who. If I go on a website, I think it would be great if we had a way to say these are authenticated users. These are, here's a bunch of clowns, and you could listen to them or not, but we don't know who they are. They chose to pass. And do you think that's sort of this future? At least, I don't think there'll ever be a non-anonymous future, but
No.
in this sort of corporate environment, I really need to know that I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to him, or that instruction came from me, because I saw a case where they called me about forensics on this, and of course the answer was really like, sorry, you're screwed. But they got deepfaked.
Yeah.
It was just a voice deepfake, and it sounded like the CEO, and this accounting clerk received a phone call and said, I need you to change these routing numbers, and I need them changed right now.
Yeah, urgency.
And and this person didn't really know the CEO. It was going to be sort of strange, and the person sort of panicked and did it, and $150,000 was gone in a second. And they were calling me going, how do we get this money back? And I'm like, well, first you need an army.
Exactly.
and you're going to need some boats, because the person that did this is probably not
nowhere near
next
us.
door. Yeah. So how do we beat these kind of things? So when I get a call from you as my superior, how do I know it's you?
Yeah, good question. So there's push authentication that you can do. There's identities. Identity is verified in multi-stages throughout the process. So we can have AI-enabled identity verification that is using your smartphone, using your computer, using other methodologies that uses AI to validate that you are the person sitting behind the phone, sitting behind the computer, that matches our enrolled credentials for you.
Okay.
Once that's verified, then you can provide that satisfaction, that guarantee, that gratification to the person that you're requesting this of, so that they know that it's you're authentic. Now, what's important is this can occur throughout many life cycles in our process. It's not just through, hey, I'm the CEO, I need you to do this payment for me now. It also could be for privileged access. Step up off, right? Like our database administrator needs to go in and oops, we made a mistake, we need to modify this database query right now. But before we're gonna give them that entitlement to do that, in real time, we're gonna push something on their smartphone, they're gonna look at it, they're gonna turn their face, they're gonna do a liveliness check, and that's gonna validate and verify that that DBA is actually the one who wants to issue that command. Okay. They do it, it lives for maybe 5 minutes, however long we decide, and then it times out and they have to log back in and do it based on the criticality or the severity of that.
Yeah, and all that stuff's always kind of frustrating. That's the way security works, right? It's just like I can't get in this building without going past a guard and a scanner and all these things, and okay, that's the trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
How do you use the same kind of thing to validate documents? So like in today's terms, like a digital signature, that technically should be legit. Anything can be faked, but so this would be a more advanced version of that.
Let's go back to the onboarding process, because we know during customer onboarding, if a customer gets frustrated with the process, we know that they're going to bounce, right? And it's really high numbers. Like we know that if you try to enroll for a new bank account and you're frustrated about the enrollment process, you're going to go, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to go somewhere else with my banking needs.
Yeah.
So where AI comes into play here, it seamlessly, very quickly in the back end, within the matter of seconds, less than a minute, can validate the documents you're showing with the identity, your physical presence in front of that device is the same, and it matches it seamlessly. And it's no longer you have to go down to the bank to open up an account. It's no longer you have to submit documents in person, let them photocopy your passport.
Right.
That all happens virtually from the comfort of your home and makes the enrollment process for our customers so
I mean,
much
so that's
easier.
just like literally like this, look at your phone
It's
and
that
you're good
simple.
to go. Okay.
Going back to the deepfake thing and this topic, I invite you to come to our Entrust booth. We have demos set up where you can see these actions happening in real time. You can see the simplicity of it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Okay. Do you have kittens?
No comment.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
If you don't know, we were talking earlier about there's some booths on the expo floor that have like goats and puppies.
Puppies.
And, I'm like,
it
it's
is
not
cheating.
fair.
It is
It's cheating, and you're evil. But I'll be over there later. Yeah. But thank you so much. So thanks, Jordan. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. Obviously, we could talk for a lot longer, but we can't. If you want to find out more, please visit all of our RSAC 2025 coverage by going to securityweekly.com/Entrust RSAC, which is a nice landing page somebody put together. Thanks, and we'll be back in a little bit with even more conversations.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate your time.
You bet.